All right, let's talk about the grand finale of your research paper, the discussion section. Now, this isn't just the last chapter. Honestly, it's the most important one. It's where all your hard work comes to life and makes an impact. So let's dive in and figure out how to write a killer one.
So think about it. You've done all the heavy lifting. You've collected the data, you've run the numbers, you've laid out your findings. And that brings you right here, to the discussion. This is where you stop just reporting facts and you start telling the story of what your research actually means. It's where everything clicks.
And you really want to get this right because the stakes are incredibly high. I mean, listen to this insight from Scopus Journal reviewers. This is the #1 spot where papers get rejected. It doesn't matter how amazing your data is. If you can't explain why it matters, the whole thing can just fall apart.
So let's get down to it. What is the discussion section, really? Well, the easiest way to think about it is as the so what section. Your results section already told us what you found. Now, the discussion has to answer that all-important question. So what? Why should anyone care? Let's really break that difference down. You see, the results section is purely descriptive. It's the what. It's, we found a correlation of X. But the discussion section, that's interpretive. It's the so what. It takes that same finding and says, this correlation suggests Y, and that completely changes how we think about Z. It's the bridge that takes us from raw data to real understanding. Okay, I know that sounds like a huge task, but don't worry, there's actually a pretty reliable blueprint you can follow. Let's walk through a simple 6-step framework that will give your discussion the solid structure it needs to be powerful and persuasive.
And here it is. This is your roadmap. You start by briefly summarizing your key findings, just the highlights. Then you place those findings in context with what other people have already published. After that, you've got to tackle any curveball results, address your study's limitations, and we'll talk more about that, suggest where future research could go, and then finally, you wrap up by restating the big takeaway. It's a really clear path from A to Z. Now, let's zoom in on step 2 for a second, because this one is absolutely crucial. Placing your findings in context. What does that mean? It means you're showing the reader how your work fits into the bigger picture. You're joining an ongoing academic conversation and saying, hey everyone, here's my contribution.
And here's a fantastic pro tip for how to do that. It's called the mirror technique. All you do is go back to the studies you mentioned in your introduction, and you hold them up like a mirror to your own results. Do your findings reflect what others have found, or do they show something totally different? This creates this amazing dialogue where you can literally say, Smith's 2018 study found X, but our results actually show Y. And here's why we think that is. Okay, let's talk about something that makes every single researcher just a little bit nervous. The curveball. What do you do when your data gives you a result you totally did not see coming? Your first instinct might be to feel like you failed. But trust me, it's actually a huge opportunity.
Let's look at a concrete example. Imagine you're doing this huge 20-year analysis on snake bites, and you find that during droughts, the number of snake bites actually goes down. Now, this is really weird because popular belief, and even some other studies, say the exact opposite. So there it is, right? On one side, you've got what everyone thinks is true, and on the other, you've got your data, telling a different story. The temptation might be to kind of brush past it or downplay it, but you absolutely should not do that. This is where your discussion can become truly groundbreaking. You have to lean in and tackle it head on. This is your moment to really shine as a critical thinker. Use the discussion to explore the why. Could it be that snakes are less active when it's super hot? Or maybe people are just staying indoors more during droughts. Proposing these potential explanations, that's the mark of a really great researcher. All right, next up, let's talk about something that feels like a weakness, but is actually a total power move, talking about your study's limitations. Seriously, this shows a level of confidence and credibility that reviewers love to see. And I know the question on your mind is probably this one. Do I really have to point out the flaws in my own work? It feels totally backward, right? Like, why would I give a reviewer a reason to reject my paper? And the answer is a resounding yes. You absolutely should. Because being honest about your limitations doesn't weaken your paper, it makes it stronger. It shows your reader that you have a deep, nuanced understanding of what you did. You're not trying to hide anything. You're basically saying, here are the boundaries of my claims. And that makes the claims inside those boundaries way more believable. So what are we talking about here? Well, limitations usually fall into one of two buckets. You've got methodological limitations, things like your sample size or the specific methods you used. And then you have researcher limitations, like maybe you had limited access to certain data, or you are working under a tight deadline. Acknowledging this stuff is just good, honest science.
And here's the key. You can do this in a really professional way. So instead of just saying, my sample size was too small, you frame it constructively. You say something like, the primary limitation to the generalization of these results is the sample size. See how that language turns a potential flaw into a thoughtful observation and even a suggestion for the next study?
Okay, we've talked a lot about what to do. Now let's do a quick fire round on what not to do. If you can avoid these 4 common pitfalls, you'll instantly make your discussion section so much better. All right, let's go. Rule 1. Do not just repeat your results. We've read them. Interpret them. Rule 2. No new data. Absolutely none. If it wasn't in the results section, it doesn't belong here. Rule 3. Don't make huge claims that your evidence doesn't support. And finally, Rule 4. Don't cherry pick. You have to address all of your significant findings, not just the ones that neatly fit your hypothesis.
So, in the end, it all comes back to this one simple idea. Your results are the what. Your discussion is the so what. This is your chance to step up and be a storyteller, to transform your data from a list of facts into a compelling narrative that actually pushes your field forward. So the only real question is, what story are you going to tell?